Tonight, Whyalla police catch 3 drug drivers in the space of 2 hours, including one man who had young children in the car. And Port Lincoln's runaway brides ready to go for the annual Variety Bash, raising money for sick kids and their families.
This is Southern Cross News with Fraser Goldsworthy.
Good evening. Whyalla police are urging motorists not to run the gauntlet and drive while under the influence. It's after officers caught 3 drug drivers in just under 2 hours, including one man who had 2 young children in the car.
We're constantly being reminded about the dangers of driving under the influence, but time and time again, police are catching people. And school holidays are no exception, with 3 drug drivers caught on Whyalla roads in the space of 2 hours yesterday.
Drugs and alcohol impairs a person's ability to drive a motor vehicle. And at this time of the year, with kids around playing near roads, it is a real public safety issue.
The first man was caught at 12:30 p.m. on Bastine Crescent, testing positive to methamphetamine. The next driver was caught 45 minutes later on Flinders Avenue, with a 63-year-old man testing positive to cannabis and meth. And at 2:20 p.m, a 26-year-old man tested positive to meth, with 2 young children inside his vehicle.
People that do this to themselves are putting their own lives at risk. When it involves children, it really does increase the seriousness.
Inspector Hubbard says those caught under the influence with children inside will be pushed into rehabilitation.
Anyone detected with young children in the car will be subjected to an assessment to try and address their drug and alcohol issues.
And those thinking of running the gauntlet are being warned.
Every police vehicle is a mobile drug and alcohol testing station. Be aware that we have police out there and we are looking.
All 3 men were ordered not to drive for 24 hours, while their samples are being forensically tested. John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
Port Pirie has been feeling the winter chill lately, with many nights recording frosty temperatures of below 1 degree. The Weather Bureau says unusual weather patterns are causing the cold nights, warm days and little rainfall throughout the region.
Port Pirie is known for its wintry, cold nights. In June, the average nighttime temperature was a chilly 5.4 degrees, just a touch cooler than average. The cold conditions saw many frosty mornings, the temperatures rising to an average of 17 degrees in the day.
So in June, Port Pirie had 7 nights where it got to 1 degree or less, with the coldest night got down to minus 0.8 degrees on the 22nd.
Despite feeling like it, it's not the coldest winter we've had. Last year, Port Pirie recorded 10 nights below 1 degree. The Bureau says unusually strong high-pressure systems travelling through the region is what's causing the cold nights.
The reason we're seeing such dry conditions, but also generally clear days, and we're seeing those sort of warmish days but cold nights.
The Bureau of Meteorology says cold fronts are staying further south than they usually would be for this time of year, contributing to this year's below-average rainfall. But it seems a weak cold front is shaping up for Port Pirie later this month.
It doesn't look like there's much in that, and probably looking until the end of the month before we see any more rainfall.
But for now, more sunshine is on the way. Rachel Nell, Southern Cross News.
Local leaders say safety issues with overtaking lanes between Whyalla and Port Augusta are being addressed. The member for Giles says he's received confirmation from the state government that the lanes will now be safe for cars and bikes.
Southern Cross News recently reported concerns from motorists and our federal and state MPs about the state of new overtaking lanes between Whyalla and Port Augusta. A chief concern has been a lip between the old and new roads, which could have spelled danger for bike riders along with some potholes. 1 week on and it seems progress has been made.
According to the Minister's office, those issues have been addressed and the potholes have also been addressed.
Mr Hughes has welcomed the remediation, saying it will improve the safety. He says motorcyclists especially were his main concern, saying the road groove could have been an issue during nighttime riding.
In the dark, you're travelling at 110 kilometres an hour, you could have easily lost control over your motorbike.
Mr. Hughes says he'll be keeping his eye on the surface over the next few weeks to ensure the improvements are working. He's due to head out there for a look in the next few days and has asked motorists using the surface to monitor its condition.
And I will be going out in the next day to have a look at that, and also to speak to some of the people that raised those initial concerns.
John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
Hundreds turned out to pick a wire for Port Augusta's NAIDOC Family Fun Day today. The event was a chance for families to put their school holidays to good use in a celebration of Indigenous culture.
A family fun day, with everything from face painting, baby crocodiles, to rock climbing.
Just done the rock climbing. Bit challenging at first, but I've done it 4 times already.
Pikawea Health Service played host to a raft of activities for adults and children. From traditional bush medicine to native bush tucker to colourful playtime with the Starlight Foundation.
There's a lot of giveaways, there's a lot of people coming to represent various organisations that offer services to everyone in the community, not just the Aboriginal community. Aside from the pleasure and play, a number of health bodies use the day to reinforce more serious messages.
We've reached around about 200 people that's come to our stall today to have to make some form of a pledge to give up smoking.
It's the second event Pikawea has hosted, along with its famed quiz night. The Family Fun Day just another addition to Port Augusta's long list of successful NAIDOC events.
Been a great week, very packed, and we're really happy to be part of it.
Garth Burley, Southern Cross News.
And Port Pirie's also celebrated NAIDOC Week today with a flag-raising ceremony and march down the main street. Hundreds of locals gathered to take part in the event, celebrating the achievements of Aboriginal women in our region. This year, 10 organisations from across the Grey electorate received federal government grants from the NAIDOC Week round, totalling over $74,700. Port Pirie received $7,000. Plans for Port Augusta's community-owned tertiary education centre are ramping up, with a number of initial reports for the facility now complete. The education hub would give locals the opportunity to pursue their studies without leaving the region.
The dream of completing tertiary education in the country is fast approaching as a reality, with the COTEC program making big steps towards a 2019 start date.
We've got now signed up partners with Flinders University, Adelaide University and the Central Queensland University as well.
Preliminary reports into the design of the facility have been completed, and over 70 people have already flagged their interest in undertaking a degree.
Some are in psychology, some are in business, some are in engineering, so there's quite a raft of different degrees looking to be offered next year.
Having a facility like this in our backyard means skill shortages specific to the region could be identified and appropriate training focused to that area.
And a good example I give here in Port Augusta is with Sundrop Farms, which is a fantastic business, and of course they would like to upskill and train people, for example, in horticulture.
COTEC is holding advanced negotiations with TAFE SA, which could see the TAFE facilities utilised as the education hub. Garth Burley, Southern Cross News.
In a major coup for Broken Hill, the town has featured in a series of road trip plans designed by the New South Wales tourism sector. The Silver City is part of a 4-day road trip across the outback region of the state, which starts in Dubbo, spanning over 700 kilometres.
Broken Hill's one of those, I think, iconic inland tourist destinations in the state. Visit www.visitnsw.com and click on the inland drives, and they can have a look at the various itineraries that are on offer for all of the 15 drives.
The route that encompasses Broken Hill is called Central to Outback, New South Wales. Still to come tonight, today marks 20 years since the famous Shack of the Shark landed on Port Pirie shores, and Meet Port Lincoln's Runaway Brides will hit the road next month, raising money for sick kids and their families. Welcome back. Organisers of Broken Hill Ag Fair say despite the chilly conditions, around 7,000 people came through the gates across the event's 2 days. While the numbers were down a little on the Friday, they surged on the weekend, with hundreds of locals making the most of the biennial event.
The exhibitors, we still had in excess of 320 exhibitors, which was really good. And we were really pleased with the feedback from the exhibitors, because they were all pretty pleased with their sales and the leads that they got to follow up with later on.
Preparations are already underway for the next Ag Fair, which will be held in 2020. Well, today marks 20 years since Shaka the shark landed on Port Pirie's shores. The famous great white has since been replicated through a life-size model, drawing tourists in from all over the state.
It wasn't the catch Wallaroo fisherman Craig Fletcher was hoping for.
A 1 tonne, 5.5 metre great white shark who'd become entangled in his lines, and because sharks need to keep moving, she drowned.
Shaka was hunting for food in Germain Bay when the fatal accident happened on July 12, 1998.
She'd actually attacked a stingray. The barb had got stuck in her mouth and had shattered 3 rows of teeth.
Just 1 year before, the Australian federal government made it illegal to catch great white sharks. To prove her death was indeed accidental, Shaka was brought ashore and taken to Adelaide for an autopsy.
And the autopsy was actually witnessed by Peter Benchley, the author of Jaws.
The life-size model draws in thousands of tourists to Port Pirie each year, with her jaws and petrel fin taxidermied and also on display. Another model hangs from the ceiling of the South Australian Museum.
We would have about 3,500 to 4,000 people a year come through and look at Shaka. As I say, and a lot of people, that is the reason they'll stop in.
A virtual reality shark experience has also been added to the exhibition to give visitors a new experience. And Council is celebrating her 20th anniversary by offering 20 days free access to Shaka. Rachel Nell, Southern Cross News.
Port Lincoln's runaway brides are roaring and almost ready to go for next month's annual Variety Bash. The ladies have been busy preparing their dresses and have already raised $30,000 for the charity, which is so vital to children and families in need.
Meet the ultimate bridal party.
It's not often that you get to see 4 women in long white dresses walking down the street together or hosting events, but it's a lot of fun to do, and you should see us out in the red dust of the outback.
The brides have teamed up once again to compete in next month's Variety Bash, raising money for local sick children and their families. And this year there's been a few new brides or virgin brides joining in on the ride.
I suppose one of the reasons why I agreed to do it is that I have a child that has had lots of health issues and spent lots of time in Adelaide. I kind of had that little bit of an insight as to how hard it can be for families.
We are fundraising, but we're actually having fun raising. So the community really gets behind us. We have fun in the wedding dresses. We're very well known and accepted in the community.
The group has already raised $30,000, but there's still a few fun fundraising events coming up.
We're hosting the latest Mamma Mia movie here at Euphoria. That's coming up on Thursday night next week. And following that, on Sunday the 29th of July, just before the fundraising cut-off, we've got canapes and desserts up at Peter Teakle Winery.
While the brides are still getting the final touches done on their dresses, the V8 is ready and roaring to go.
Oh, the V8 bride is Schmicko. She takes the corners well.
The brides head off to Adelaide on August 10 before finishing in Port Lincoln on August 18. Casey Trelaw, Southern Cross News.
It is a great cause. Well, time now for Fish and Tips.
Welcome to another week around the Gulf Fishing Tips from Port Pirie. I cannot believe this at the moment. I went fishing south to try and chase some King George whiting, got a small sprinkling of fish, and a friend of mine went over to Eastern Shoal and actually got his quota big size fish, 35, 36 centimetres. So it tells me from my records that anywhere around the Checkerboy, Eastern Shoal, 5th and 7th Creek, you should find yourself a good feeder fish. There's still been some nice snapper, and the tip is on the Tyre Reef you'll find some mid-sized snapper, and if you're also at it, don't forget the squid jags.
G'day and welcome to this week's Fishing Tips from Port Augusta, Jewel of the North. Well, there's a few fish around at the moment, lots of schools of salmon around the middle banks and up and around the creeks. A couple of kingfish still hanging around the powerhouse, but the whiting are biting at the moment. Lots of King George whiting over in the Flinders Channel, but also surprisingly down along the shacks as well in some of those deeper holes. There are a couple of whales about, so just have a look out for those. That's all we have from the Jewel of the North.
Hi, Whalers Fishing Report this week. There's been some nice sized whiting coming down from Mount Young grounds. Also on the boilers at Marrick's Tyre Reef, there's been some nice whiting there as well. Along the Brackett Swell, there's been some nice big salmon, guys, so get amongst them. Snapper have been very hit and miss. Best areas to target would be the Rip. And land-based around Whyalla, there's been some nice salmon around the Point Lowly Lighthouse. And a few large kingfish have been sighted in close along the shorelines there too.
G'day, welcome to this week's Fishing Tips in Port Lincoln. Starting up at Port Neal. Last weekend I managed to get up there and got 5 really big squid off the town jetty. There was also word of a few whiting out there for the boaties as well. Moving down to Tummy Bay, it's been a similar story around the jetty with some big squid down there. Out of the group, the guys have been doing really well on the whiting. There's also been a few snapper on the southern edge of the group there. Down in Port Lincoln, probably the squid's been the main catch around the bay here. Salmon have been going really well along the south coast. There's been some big scores along the Millers to Wanna stretch there. Over to Coffin Bay, there's been some great catches of whiting out there at Farm Beach, with a few fish around the leases and some salmon trout around the town. That's it for this week. We'll see you again next week.
Stay with us after the break. Amy will have all the local weather details, and it was another sunny winter's day around the region, Amy.
Yes, Fraser, luckily for us, those lovely winter days are hanging around. I'll have all the details next. Welcome back. Mostly sunny around all centres today, with maximums in the mid-teens. Port Augusta saw a high of 16, Whyalla reached 15 degrees, as did Port Perry, while Broken Hill experienced a fine day of 14. On the satellite, and patchy cloud over the south and southeast of the state in the wake of a front and a trough is bringing lingering showers, mainly around the coast. Skies are remaining clear elsewhere under a large high pressure system, which is leading to cold nights and frost inland. If you're out on the waters tomorrow, northeasterly winds will shift northwesterly between 10 to 15 knots, while seas will only reach up to half a metre. Sunrise is at 7:24, while it will set at 5:26. Checking tomorrow's forecast, and despite temperatures dropping overnight, it is going to warm up slightly during the day. 18 the maximum in Port Augusta, with Whyalla and Coffin Bay sitting a degree or so below. Temperatures will drop to -1 in Clare before reaching a high of 12. At the moment, it's looking as though showers will extend into early next week in Port Lincoln, with a high of 17 on Monday. Fine conditions will continue in Cleve, while Woodnut will see maximums reach 18 into next week. Sunny all round in Whyalla, with a fine 19 predicted early next week. Temperatures in Port Augusta will reach up to 20 for a rather warm winter Monday. And in Kadina, after a mostly sunny weekend, the start of next week will bring more sunshine and a high of 17 degrees. Maximums are set to hit 18 on Sunday and Monday in Port Perry, with mostly fine conditions. Cooler maximums in Clare, only seeing tops of 15 leading into next week. Broken Hill is also in for some cooler days. However, Monday is looking like it'll bring a fine 18 to start the new working week. So Fraser, while we're rugging up overnight, the warmer days will continue for a little longer yet.
Thanks, Amy, and that's the local news this Thursday. Thanks for your company. I'll have updates later. Until then, enjoy your evening. Good night.